Welcome back to Master Your Glass with me, Livio Laro. Today we are going to make 5 different absinthe cocktails. They can be boozy, they can be refreshing, they can be swanky. Let's get into it now. The 5 drinks I'm going to make today are the Death in the Afternoon, the Sazerac, the Tour Eiffel, the Absinthe Frappe, and the Corpse Survivor #2. I'm going to put some timestamps on this video, so if you want to skip directly to a specific drink of this, we can do that. But for now, let's get into the first one. To make a Death in the Afternoon, what you really want to do is make sure that all your ingredients, including your champagne saucer, are cold. Inside of this cold saucer, I'm going to go ahead and pour a half of an ounce or 15 mils of absinthe. And then I'm going to top it with about 4.5 ounces of ice cold champagne. Then I'm going to just give this a gentle stir with a spoon. And there she is, ready to go. The history of this cocktail is really fascinating. It is said to have been created by Ernest Hemingway, and it shares the name of his novel that speaks about Spanish bullfighting, called, of course, Death in the Afternoon. And his instructions actually went for a lot more absinthe than I put in here, but I kind of toned it down with about the half ounce or 15 mils, and then the champagne on top. One of his other instructions was to drink about 3 to 5 of these daily. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and sip this one and see what it's all about. The absinthe really comes through, so I'm getting a lot of that menthol, fennel, anise, licorice aroma on it. And the butteriness of the champagne is as well. The drink is nice, light, refreshing. Again, good combination of absinthe, eucalyptic, a little citrus, a little bit of acid from that champagne, and some of those more buttery notes that you get out of this style of champagne. It's really good, and I could see this being a nice just afternoon cocktail. Next, I'm gonna make the iconic Sazerac Cocktail, and to do that, I'm gonna take this rocks glass. In it, I'm gonna pour about 1/4 ounce of absinthe, and I'm just gonna coat the glass with the absinthe, and then I'm gonna dump out any of the excess absinthe that is not needed. Just to chill the glass now temporarily, I'm gonna add some crushed ice inside of this glass and set it aside. Now I'm going to take, inside of a mixing beaker, I'm gonna add cognac, and in this case, it would be 2 ounces or 60 mils. A half an ounce of simple syrup or 15 mils, and then 3 dashes of Peychaud bitters. Now originally this drink is also debated to have been made with rye, but we believe the first recipe actually had cognac in it. So I'm giving this a nice chill in the mixing beaker. And now that this is all done, oddly enough, I'm going to pour the ice out of the rocks glass. And inside, I'm just gonna strain with no ice, the liquid that I have just stirred together. And now, a little lemon peel on top, and this drink is about ready for me to drink. And so, let's try it. The aroma just, it just reminds me of that 19th century cocktail era, very bougie. The aroma of the cognac, which brings out that acidic component to it. Kind of some floral notes. I'm not getting any of the absinthe, but let's go ahead and taste and see what happens when I drink it. It's a toucher on the sweeter side, but probably for all the good reasons. It's actually really balancing out. The sugar is balancing the acid that you would find in the cognac. The absinthe is coming in perfectly, just a little bit, just a touch of licorice component in here. The peel from the lemon that I squeezed is also giving me some of those citrus components. This is just a nice boozy cocktail, and I see this, you know, before dinner or perhaps even after dinner, just to kindly slowly sip on and reflect on life. Speaking of reflecting, let's talk a little bit about the history of the Sazerac cocktail. Of course, it is shrouded in mystery, just like most of these classics from the 1800s. We do know that it has a background coming from New Orleans. Sazerac was originally a French brandy that was highly popular in that era at that time. And at some point, it just encountered this really cool relationship by adding some absinthe, some sweetener, some lemon peel, and a few dashes of Peychaud bitters, and out came this really cool cocktail. All of these stories really tie into the Sazerac house in New Orleans, which is a great place to enjoy this cocktail. Next drink I'm making here is La Tour Eiffel, and this is a swankier version of a Sazerac cocktail. First and foremost, I'm going to take my chilled champagne flute, and I'm going to go ahead and pour about 1/4 ounce of absinthe in it, and just like I did with the Sazerac, give it a twirl, make sure that the glass gets coated with this beautiful aniseed licorice bitter liqueur. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour that out and chill the glass again just with some crushed ice. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a beaker, and inside of this beaker I'm going to add 2.5 ounces, that's 75 mils, of cognac. Next I'm going to add 1/2 ounce, that's 15 mils, of triple sec or Cointreau. Next step, I'm going to take 1/2 ounce or 15 mils of Suze, this beautiful French aperitif. And then I'm going to give this a nice, generous stir. Okay, after stirring this for about 20 to 30 seconds, making sure it is nice and cold, I'm going to dump out the contents from the flute so that now that it's nice and chilled, I can go ahead and strain in this drink. And lastly, a little zest of a lemon peel and plop that in. And this drink is ready to go. This drink here really actually hits home for me in many ways. It was created by the late and great Gaz Regan, who was a cocktail expert and a spirits expert, and just a hell of a mentor and a hell of a guy. Gaz was probably the 5th or the 6th subscriber to Master Your Glass when I first started the show. He was just such a supportive kind of person. And so this drink to me means a lot to him. Supposedly Gaz was inspired by a trip he went to France where he toured a bunch of distilleries and he toured cognac distilleries. And so it just got him thinking, what would happen if I decide to make a fancier version of the Sazerac the way the French would do it? So how would the French do it? Well, probably there would be a flute involved. It would be in a stemmed glass. It would have a little bit more finesse. He adds the Suze in it, which is also a French aperitif instead of the Peychaud bitters. And here is this wonderful drink. On the nose, the lemon peel comes out really a lot, those oils that I squeezed in there. On the bottom, I'm almost getting a little bit of an orangey component, but not many of the other ingredients are popping, only the triple sec or Cointreau part of this. Just so velvety. Wow, really, really nicely. At the end of it, I get a little spice, a little pucker spice, maybe a little bitterness, rootiness from the Suze. But in between, it's a very well-balanced story made of cognac, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of orange. Just really, really well balanced together with just that hint of aniseed and licorice from the absinthe. This is a really, really good drink. I mean, it's funny because served in a flute, it doesn't look like it's bougie, but it's definitely bougie and something you should drink before or after a meal as well. Next drink I'm gonna make here is the very fun Absinthe Frappe. I'm gonna start by putting about 8 mint leaves inside of this mixing glass. After that, I'm gonna put 1 lemon wedge and just 1/2 ounce or 30 mils of liquid Aquamis simple syrup. Give this a nice little muddle, create a little juicy base for this cocktail. And now I'm going to go ahead and pour 1.5 ounces or 45 mils of absinthe. and give this bad boy a nice shake. After about a 15-second shake, I'm gonna go ahead and double strain this into this really cool glass that I have here. Next, I'm going to top it with crushed ice. I'm gonna flatten up that top a little bit, and then I'm gonna add some soda water on top. And then if there's any more ice needed, I will add it at this point. Next, to garnish this beauty, I'm just gonna go ahead and put a mint top and a lime wedge. And this drink here is fun and exciting. And this is it. Now this drink too has a really interesting story for me. It hits home as well because this one here is a drink that we have every year at the annual event, Tales of the Cocktail. There's one night of that week or 5-day celebration that we all meet at the old Absinthe house, and we have a Absinthe Frappe. So let's go ahead and drink. Oh yeah, just the aroma of the mint is amazing. Yes, 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 yes. Just a refreshing, minty, citrusy, bubbly, easygoing, such an incredible drink. I believe this one here is the one that showcases absinthe at its very, very, very best. Created in the 1700s, also in New Orleans. And such a great, fun, festive cocktail. I really believe you should make this because when you do, you'll finally know what to do with that bottle of absinthe, number one, and number two, you'll really, really enjoy it. So now it's time to make the very last cocktail. If you made it to this point, please do give me a like and subscribe to this channel. I'm appreciating that very much, but let's get into this drink right here. This here is the Corpse Reviver number 2. To make the Corpse Reviver number 2, I'm gonna go ahead and rinse the inside of this cocktail coupe. And after that, I'm gonna go ahead and add some ice just to get it to chill, and I'm gonna set that aside. Now inside this shaker here, I'm gonna add ice in the tin, and in the glass side, I am going to add 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 mils of London Dry Gin. In this case here, I am using Bombay Dry. Next, I'm gonna add 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 of Lillet Blanc. Also in equal measurement, 3/4 of an ounce and 22.5 mils of orange liqueur. And lastly, another 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice that I just squeezed a few seconds ago. I'm gonna seal that shaker and give this a nice shake. After which, I'm going to go ahead and dump the ice out of this cocktail coupe, and I'm going to strain this into the cocktail glass. And this is the Corpse Reviver. Now I get to try it. By the way, no garnish in this drink. Let's go ahead and give this a little sniff. Typically shaken up sours don't give you a hell of a lot of aroma, and this is no different. Maybe just a touch of that eucalyptic from absinthe, but at this point, all I smell is absinthe, so I could be mistaken. Very, very nice. I love the gin, how it's playing with that little rinse of absinthe. The lemon is right there, right where it needs to be, not too much, not too little. Balanced out by the orange liqueur. And I'm really liking, yeah, just liking all the herbal components to it as well. This is a really good kind of afternoon sipper, right? If the Sazerac was that big boozy drink, and if the Absinthe Frappe was more of that light, refreshing, have a few drink, this one here kind of sits right in the middle. So this drink here, its history is basically the Corpse Revivers was a series of cocktails. The number 2, which is this one here, is the most popular, but there are still recipes of the number 1 also floating around all the time. It was made popular by Harry Craddock in his book, The Savoy Cocktail Book, which came out in the 1930s. And it's just a gem of a cocktail. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Master Glass. I know I had a hell of a time making these drinks and drinking them for you. And if you did, why don't you go ahead and give us a like and subscribe to the channel. I highly appreciate it. And come back to Master Glass with me, Livio Lauro, where you get expert instruction for everyday consumption.